I think let us take some time to celebrate the class of 2024. What a remarkable way to begin the year 2025 with such great results right through. I think the national passing mark has been taken from where we've never seen it before to new heights. I think I read the other day that it was at an 87%, which is something that we've never seen before, something that we've never experienced. So we can all really rally behind them and celebrate with them, which is something that is remarkable. To all those of you who were in Matric in 2024 and who didn't do well, it's not the end of the road. There's something that you can still do. There's agencies out there that could assist you in really pursuing your dream. We have to also speak to you, to motivate you, to go back to school, try again until you succeed. Having said that as well, similarly to all of those who are not happy with their marks, I think there is that opportunity as well to go and upgrade your marks and to try then and go back to university maybe next year. So it's something that you can do, and there's a lot of opportunities available to all of those who are not happy with their marks. So we're really proud and we're really happy. So thank you so much to the class of 2024 for making the nation so proud. With this video today, what we're trying to achieve is to look at the minister's speech. I think over the week, the minister with a delegation and everyone who is in the education sphere and who is important in the Department of Education, they all met here in Johannesburg and they celebrated the Matric results. So what we're then trying to do today is to analyze the speech, look at how she relayed the message and how excited she was when she spoke about the event, what were the ups, what were the downs, what areas can you and I improve when we also do or get the same opportunity as the minister. So we are in no way, shape or form trying to critique policy or anything like that, but we're really just looking at the speech and really trying to break it down so that we can also improve in our own little sphere, in our own environments. So looking at how the speech began, I think when the minister took to the podium, already one could see something because only one person really stood and really clapped for the minister. Now, if you're staying in South Africa and you know how it is when you're a minister, that office comes with a level of respect. When you get into any room, people stand as a sign of respect to you and as a sign of respect to the office. So on this occasion, really, it was a bit difficult where we could see, in fact, I must put a disclaimer, the camera, sort of pinned and looked at one person who stood up on the stage. Anyone who is an orator, someone who has taken the podium to speak to people, knows how difficult it is to create that rapport with the audience. So when you stand and people clap for you, when you take the platform and people look at you in a certain way, that does help and it improves. So what we saw with the minister, it was a bit difficult where no one stood up. Only one person stood up and gave the minister a round of applause. So that does affect the speech and it makes it a bit more difficult. I know one example that I can also give, Vusi Tembekwayo, when he takes the podium, the one thing that he normally says is, "Let me take in the room." Now, this is a tool that you can also use. But for some of us who are not experienced or who may not be experienced in the speaking environment, that does tend to create its own give you its own risks and challenges. When you look at it, I think in the introduction, she greeted everyone, as is always the norm at such an event. She greeted a delegation. She went further to extend the greetings to MECs, to senior government officials that were there, to stakeholders, etc. So I felt that she really tied in the room and everyone gravitated towards her in the introduction. What she also managed to achieve in the introduction is to also explain the purpose of the event. She explained that they were really there to celebrate the class of 2024. She also wanted to take the time to review the current education system, to speak about its successes, to speak about its weaknesses, and to really inspire South Africans to work together to try and improve the system, which was something that was very good in the introduction. What also gave the introduction some weight is her, speaking in Xhosa, where she then, tried to explain to South Africans that through the apartheid system to where we are, the journey of the education system, that it hasn't been easy for the education system, but it has achieved so much, having gone through what it's gone through to where it is today, which was a very smart way, really, of going about writing that speech. What was interesting to me as well is, she brought in our former president, Nelson Mandela. She cited some of his work, which was very interesting as well. In citing him, she relayed how education was important, and Nelson Mandela having said that it's a tool that could be used to empower a nation and to build a nation going forward, which was very interesting and something that tied into her introduction. She also brought in the former minister, Professor, who was integral into building the education system from South Africa. I think she mentioned that she was the first minister in 1994 to take over the portfolio of education, which was something incredible to bring. I think her critiques are always saying that the minister is really basking in the work that has been put in. So a lot of work has happened in the background, and then she just recently became minister or took the office, and then she's taken the work. But I was quite impressed that she didn't falter really in acknowledging those who came before her. So that really, gave a relatable feature into her speech. From there, I think the body of the speech was really tied to the department, to policymakers, to all the senior government officials who were in the room. She spoke about the successes of the education system. She spoke about how difficult it has been throughout the years to get it where it is today. She spoke about the importance of the system not leaving certain kids along the way, which for me was very significant. This was also, of course, in line with what the Bella Bill is speaking about, or the Bella Act now, that says that no grade R learner shouldn't be at school. Speaking about people or society not stopping kids from going to school. So I think she touched on those issues that showed really that she understands the landscape, and she's there as a policy maker and as a policy implementer, ready to really implement. So I was really impressed when she mentioned those issues. She then brought in some stats, which was also very interesting. And when you're writing your own speech, it is important as well. I think it broadens and it shows that your ability to do some research when you bring in stats. But what is key to that is that people can also go home and really take you on stats. So when you bring in a statistical evidence into your speech writing, it's important that you get the facts correct, which in this instance, I'm sure that the minister has done so, because she also has a back team or a back office that also does some of these researches. So she mentioned that since 2013, especially as it relates to the class of 2024, these are the grade R's that began school, I think, in 2013. So she spoke about a number close to 1.2 million of people that enrolled, and then she juxtaposed that to the number of matriculants who are finishing now in 2024. She spoke, I think, of a number close to 700,000, which then she explained the number and the discrepancy there to say those that didn't make it were not lost to the system. Some of them were were part of the department or in the public education system, and then later moved into the private space. Some of them left school, going to find work and all of that. So really, I think the numbers really made sense. She also brought in some stats around the number of schools that we have, the number of districts that we have, the number of educators, which is something that's very interesting as well, because as you would follow, I think the spokesperson, Mr. Elijah, throughout the year has been speaking about around these issues of the ratio from teacher or learner to teacher. So really speaking to the department, really needing to hire more teachers, to bring in more educators into the system, which was very interesting. The minister as well was a bit technical in his speech, speaking directly to the educators, to the stakeholders who have been involved in the teaching space or in the education space throughout the years. She spoke about strategy. She spoke about the importance of how learners learn, the interface between the learners being in the classroom and having that physical touch with the teachers, and then speaking about the online sessions that the learners have had, speaking really about the positives and the negatives there. I think she also touched on the fact that there were other stakeholders that were part of the process, looking at Vodacom and MTN, and she thanked all of those, which for me made a lot of sense. She spoke also about initiatives that the department took to ensure that learning does indeed take place. She spoke about extra classes, she spoke about previous exam papers, and all of those. And I think that really added another element into her speech. So wherever really you are speaking, it does matter the audience that is listening to your message. So catering a message that speaks to your audience really does really help. And I think the minister captured this quite well. So as you move along in the speech, I think what stood out for me a lot was the minister speaking about the national protea, and she likened this beautiful flower and resilient flower to this particular class, speaking about the resilience of the protea, how even through adverse weather, not getting enough water, that it manages to bloom and to become this beautiful flower. With this, she explained that this class also went through COVID, and such difficult conditions make it difficult for learners to really learn and to be motivated to do well in school. So she spoke about them, how they really pushed through and really were very resilient through this difficult time. And I also want to speak about that as well. And I think the minister was quite correct. It wasn't easy. All countries, I think the world closed down at some time, and most of the learner-teacher interaction was happening online. So there was a lot of reliance between the education system, other stakeholders, and the learners and parents, ensuring that teaching does indeed take place. So she did mention all of these elements, which really added to her speech. In conclusion, really, I think this was a very technical speech. An example that I wanted to give as well was the fact that the matriculants who have done well in the country were sitting on the stage. Now, when you look at their faces, none of them really smiled throughout the minister's speech. So for me, that really did take away, because they were indeed the guests of honor. So writing a speech where you have to balance between speaking to your guests of honor, speaking to the people who have contributed to throughout the year and to the system, etc. One has to balance because really once people have really worked through the year, it was important for them to also smile and be happy about their achievement, and to also speak to students who didn't do well. I think the minister was a bit silent when it came to that, to motivating those who didn't do well, to uplifting them, to speaking to them and telling them about the different options that the South African market presents to them and what they can do going forward. So really for me, I think it was a speech that was directed to policymakers, to senior members in the government space, and all of parents and senior officials, rather than the matriculants themselves. And I think this is one element that the speech really needed and required. Other than that, I think the minister is well spoken. She's no stranger to standing in front of people and taking the mic, which is something that we can all learn from. I think she's well spoken. You can hear with how she controls the English language, her cadence, and how she pronounces and how she holds herself. I think she did very well, barring those small elements that for me as a speechwriter and as a emerging or upcoming orator or speaker, things that I would have done better to sort of make sure that I also connect with the audience. Let me know what you think of the minister's speech and the review that we have done. Looking forward to hearing from you and to hearing your thoughts around those. In the near future, more videos of this nature will be up on our platforms. I really appreciate those who have been waiting patiently for us to start posting and loading some content and some footage. For me, really, just to explain a bit, it was important that I try and find something that is going to be worthwhile. I didn't want to speak for the sake of speaking, but for me it has always been the importance around making a difference. So in this regard, having found and trying to analyze and to review speeches to see how we can improve, to look at how I personally first as an emerging or upcoming speechwriter or as an orator, I also wanted to share this journey with you so that you can also improve using certain techniques to improve how you do your work. So I hope this video does help, and we'll see each other again in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do enjoy.